If you get a salesperson who knows what they're doing, they will literally sell you something you did not want. Turn the radio off, turn everything off, and drive. This gives you the ability to really hear things that maybe are abnormal. At the end of the day, this is a big purchase, $25,000, $30,000. Might be the biggest purchase you've ever spent so far in your life. You want to make sure that you're getting everything that you wish. I'm going to give you 5 of the best things you can do to purchase a good investment car in today's market. So let's just get right into it. So number 1, the first thing you should be doing is your research. This should be like mandatory. However, a lot of people nowadays, I find they don't do as much research, and they'll go into a dealership and walk in there and potentially have no idea what the heck they're looking for. Now, I'm personally in sales myself. The worst thing you can do, like I said, is go in and have a sales rep kind of go through that research with you, because they may lead you down the wrong path if they don't know what they're doing. So what I've written down here, which I will show as well, is you got to figure out your need versus want. Do you need a vehicle or do you want a vehicle? Mostly, like for example, sports cars, people want sports cars, so they're going to go into a dealership, and price is a concern, but obviously the car is the biggest one. So we're going to go need versus want. Now, let's just say in this example, we're going to go need. Perfect. Okay. Are we going to go new or used? Okay, let's go used because potentially we want a car around, the $25,000, $30,000 range, which I'll get into. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go car, truck, or SUV. We want kids down the road, let's just say, so we're going to go SUV. Now we're going to figure out brand. Okay, let's figure out the brand that we're going to choose. Maybe you probably are more interested in domestic, let's just say Ford, GM, Chrysler. You might be more German oriented. Obviously for $25,000 you might not be able to get a lot, but or you might go Japanese. So those are pretty much your options there. Now, one thing to note is you want to make sure you have something, in this case if it's used, you want to make sure it's something with a good resale value, potentially down the road if you look to sell it. Reliability is huge, especially in the used market, and if it has any still factory warranty left. These are good things to note in the back of your head. And then some options potentially too. You're gonna want maybe to think about if you want heated seats, remote start, cooled seats, Apple CarPlay, and that kind of thing. But mostly what I'm saying here is this is the research you should be doing prior to going into a dealership. Best things you could do is you go on websites like Auto Trader, you got Car Gurus, you've got all these other websites you can kind of search, but I would narrow it down to about 3 brands, and then you can kind of work your way, okay, this might look a little bit nicer than the other, right? So that's how I would narrow it down. Now, that's research. Now, budget would be pretty close to research. I would say number 1 and 2. So budget is definitely up there. Budget is huge because you need to figure out how much you're looking to part ways with a month. If you're looking to part ways with $500 a month just for a car payment, let's just say, you got to make sure that that's something you can afford, right? Don't go and extend yourself, $500, $600, $700 a month plus insurance, plus gas, and then there's all these pluses. You want to make sure $500 a month is suitable for your certain income, right? And you're not carrying too much debt, because you don't want to carry too much debt, especially when you go into a car payment for X amount of years. Price is huge as well. So like I said, maybe you want to stick around the $25,000, $30,000 range. So let's just say in this case, we want to get a used SUV, potentially a Japanese RAV4 Toyota, reliable, it's good resale value still in that case, right? Something to think about. You want to make sure that in that budget, you include your insurance payments and then potentially add gas in there as well. Maybe a couple $100 a month for gas if you're not driving too much. So let's just say you got a $500 monthly payment that you're looking to achieve, $150 or $200 for insurance, so let's just call it $700, and then $200, $300 for gas. You're looking about $1,000 a month. Now, trying to get a $500 a month payment without any money down is pretty hard nowadays, I'll be honest, but I'm just using it as an example. One thing is this is part of budget, is know your credit. Really understand how your credit is and what you could get approved for prior to going into a dealership, because again, the last place you want to be is a dealership and not know any of this stuff. If you just walk onto a dealership lot and you get a good salesperson, they're going to lead you down a path that you didn't want to go down, and you might end up buying a car just because you wanted to leave. So knowing these things are huge. Know your credit, right? Like what can you get approved for? Can you get approved for a $25,000 or $30,000 car, right? What's your credit like? What interest rates, that you may be able to get could you use for a car, right? These are things potentially you might be able to ask a bank. Rates are huge. Rates are hovering around 7% to 10. Obviously depends on credit. Could be higher if your credit's pretty bad, I'll be honest. And then, like I said, understand what you can get approved for. So budgeting right now is pretty big, I'll be honest. Make sure you really understand what you can afford. Now, this is another thing that I think most people don't do is they don't book appointments to go see cars. As a salesperson, if someone called in or went online and booked an appointment, that to me is I'm allocating a certain amount of time, or I'm allocating that specific time. Let's just say they want to come in on a Saturday at 1 p.m. and they're like, boom, okay, we're going to be there at 1 p.m. The salesperson, I'm going to get everything ready. I'm going to make sure the process is seamless. Me as a professional. Some salespeople, I can't speak for them, but what I'm saying is make the appointment because your experience is going to be a lot better. If you go to a dealership and you don't book an appointment, you just walk in, you don't know if that dealership's busy. They got salespeople with clients everywhere. It might be a bad experience and you're already in a bad mindset. Most people don't want to go to dealerships anyway, so make sure you're trying to start with, I look at it as the glass half full, not half empty, right? So make sure you book that appointment. Make a list of a couple cars, right? Write down, okay, or take pictures. Okay, we saw this on your lot. It was going for 25, 30,000, had these many kilometers. Make sure you are looking at that stuff, right? Take pictures of that stuff and show the dealership, you're the salesperson, what you're looking to get. Like I said, see multiple, make sure you're seeing multiple cars, right? You don't want to just see one unless you just are interested in one vehicle. And then compare prices, right? Like you might go to the one dealership and then you saw one at another store, but you're like comparing, okay, why is this, $2-3 grand more? There is no used car factory at the end of the day, so I understand why, prices of used cars can change because conditions pretty much the biggest thing, kilometers and that kind of thing, if it has any accidents. But those are things to also compare, right? Be like, okay, we saw this one over at this store, why are you guys selling it for more? Maybe they reconditioned a little bit more. You don't know, right? Ask these questions. These are great things to ask. And then one big thing is as a consumer, if a salesperson is trying to sell me something, are they just trying to sell me the product or are they trying to understand my needs and wants? Are they trying to get to know me, the person I'm with, girlfriend, kids, wife, whatever, I don't know, right? Like, are they just focused on me or are they trying to just sell me the car? Me as a salesperson, I could talk for hours. So when people come in, the car is usually the last thing on my mind because I want to get to know someone, understand what they're looking to do. Are they looking to trade something? These are things these are things that I usually ask. But I also ask, do you have a dog, kids? I try to get to know the person because that to me is more important than just obviously just getting a car. I want to understand the person. Potentially, they may tell me everything. Like me as a salesperson, I want someone to tell me as much as they can. And this is a little controversial because people say don't tell them everything. Well, yes and no, I agree with that to a certain extent because let's just say you're shopping for a house. Are you not going to tell your realtor everything that you want? How the heck do you expect to get that beautiful house that you want? And what I mean by feeling the dealership out and feeling the salesperson, make sure that they're asking those questions, right? If they are just trying to sell you a car, maybe it's just not the right vibe for you. And don't be afraid to, after a test drive, potentially just be like, hey, you know what, sorry, this is not for us. We're gonna have to think about it. I know it's an awkward conversation, an awkward thing, but it is what it is. Test drive. Okay, so I wrote down test drive here. Usually look around the car. I would say some salespeople just get someone in the front driver's seat and then away you go, put the dealer plate on. Me as a consumer, especially if it's a used car, I'm gonna look around that car, right? I'm gonna look for dings, dents, scratches, if the wheels are curved. How are the tires, right? How are the tires? Feel the tire, right? Generally speaking, I know not everyone's a tire expert, but if you can feel that there's not much tread on it, then be like, okay, well, is this reconditioned yet? And what that means is, has it been safetied? So feel that out, check out some of the stuff. I always sometimes open the hood, could have been a used engine in there. You don't know, right? Some of these dealerships sometimes don't tell you these things. So open the hood, see the battery, see if it's new, see if all these things, line up to your standards of that $25,000, $30,000 price range, right? So that's usually what I would do. Now, one thing is obviously take the car out, but sometimes if you are, a little bit Sometimes if you don't want that salesperson to come, just tell them, hey, listen, you know, me and my wife or me and my husband just want to go by ourselves. Is that okay? Usually salespeople don't even come with you. Sometimes if they do, they just keep talking and it's really annoying. As a customer, you just want to take the car out and make sure that you like it, right? Now, another big thing is when you do the test drive, turn the radio off, turn everything off and drive. This gives you the ability to really hear things that maybe are abnormal. You know, you might feel some squeaking, some weird tire noises, some weird things, right? Maybe turn the radio off, put the AC on or turn the heat on. Maybe hear some weird noises, right? These are things to gather, all this information to gather so you can make maybe a little bit more of an informed decision rather than blasting the radio and not hearing a lot of these things around the car. These are things that are important because you could purchase the car and not hear it, and then a day or two later, that dealership's a little shady, then you're kind of shit out of luck, if that makes sense. I always say, like I said, play with, you know, the AC, heat, make sure that works, heated seats, that kind of thing. The radio functions well. Like I said, check the tires, but also to check the brakes when you have the radio off. Like, really drive, like don't beat on it, but take it on the highway. Use the brakes. You know, are they squealing? Do they feel like they need to be replaced? These are things to know, you know, in the back of your mind. Like, okay, well, you know, if these things are potential issues, now you're starting to negotiate on price. Like, hey, well, this is an issue, right? You can always kind of look around the car and be like, hey, can you fix this for this price? This. I will buy the car if you fix these things. These are things to note. Obviously, they need to fix the brakes. If the brakes are screwed, I mean, you need to stop. But those are things I would do on a test drive, right? Okay, so this is the fun part for a lot of people, actually not really, is to sit down with the salesperson and negotiate. Now, the salesperson's obviously, like me being a salesperson, going to go to my manager, let them know, you know, if the customer liked the vehicle. These are big things to note too, especially if I need to go on the test drive. I always try to ask, like, be honest with me, tell me, like, give me all the information. I always ask people, how would you rate the car 1 out of 10? These are big things I ask as a salesperson, because if they're gonna say anything less than maybe an 8, because no used car is perfect, sometimes it might be, anything less than an 8 is like, you know, or a 9, to me, it's something's wrong with it. So I always ask, how do you make it a 10? And consumers, I'd be honest with the salesperson, sometimes it's very daunting because you don't want to like shit on the car, you don't want to shit on the salesperson, but at the end of the day, this is a big purchase. $25,000, $30,000 might be the biggest purchase you've ever spent so far in your life. You want to make sure that you're getting everything that you wish, right? I know it's not a brand new car, but you always want to make sure that these are the things you ask. So, like I said, the salesperson is going to go talk to the manager, come back with numbers. Okay, now here's the biggest thing. They're usually going to do bi-weekly. This is where things get maybe a little bit more intense. So if they're a good salesperson, I usually go line by line. I'm going to go over everything, the bi-weekly payments. I'm going to go over whatever, right? Here's a trick. I'm going to teach you this, and people are probably going to hate me. The bi-weekly payment, do not times that by 2. You're not going to get the same number monthly, because you're going to make 2 extra bi-weekly payments a year. So what you do is you take that bi-weekly number, times it by 26, and then divide by 12, and that's going to give you your monthly payment. So that is what you're going to part ways with a month, essentially. People like bi-weekly because it splits it up. I do myself too. It's just use that as a reference. Take the bi-weekly payment, times it by 26 and divide by 12, and that'll give you your monthly payment. One other thing is, like I was saying before about budget, stick to that budget. Now, having said that, if you truly love the car and it's a little bit potentially more, maybe $5, $10 more, you gotta think in your mind, okay, well, am I able to do that? Can I afford that? Don't just make a rash and impulse decision. Really understand, okay, is this gonna work for me and the family? You know, we want a kid, we gotta save as much money as we can. And this is where, again, it comes a little, people think in a way like, don't be honest with the salesperson. This goes back to feeling that salesperson out. Do they really care and they wanna make sure that you're taken care of? Me as a salesperson, I try to make sure, if someone came in and they said they want a $500 a month payment and I knew it was not possible, I would just be honest right off the hop, because, you know, I think that builds a little bit of trust. If the salesperson says, and then, you know, after 2 hours of everything, you come back and the payment's $200, $300 more bi-weekly, as a consumer, I'd be pissed. So I gotta make sure, you know, I'm always in that rough estimate of what they're looking at, right? Sometimes it's not gonna be bang on if they don't have any money down, but regardless. So payments come out, let's just say they're about $30, $40 more bi-weekly. Okay, perfect, no problem, right? So you as a consumer, okay, well, you know what? Listen, like I said, we got to stick to let's just say, you did the calculations. It was like I said, $540 or $550 a month. Okay, you know what? It's a little bit more than what you wanted, right? Now, in the back of your mind as a consumer, I would think, do I love the car? If I don't love the car, I'm not gonna want to spend that extra $30-$40 a month, or maybe bi-weekly, right? You gotta just think, okay, well, I'm gonna part ways with more money. But here's the thing, you don't have to say yes. And this is where things get interesting, because as a consumer, you have the balls in your court, right? Let's just say, this is where I think you don't tell the salesperson so much. This is where you say, okay, we love the car, everything was good. You know, don't seem like this is the best car you've ever driven, because then you're losing that power ratio, right? You as a consumer want to take the power here. You want to be able to say, yeah, we like it. You know, if you can make it where our budget is, then perfect, right? But one other thing also is make sure that they're laying out all that is in that payment, right? You don't want to be sitting there in finance and them going over the full bill of sale and then showing you, okay, well, what's this tire guard? What's this delivery fee or whatever? I know there's fees that the dealership pays for from the OEM, like obviously the transport fees, like up $2,000 now they're costing. But make sure, is this including the dock fees? Is tax included? Is this without all the option stuff? Make sure you're asking that stuff, because that might bump your payment up $10 to $20 or even more, right? You want to make sure that you're just getting the car and nothing else. This is something too, once you go over that stuff with the salesperson, maybe ask them, okay, we just need to think right now, right? If you want the car, you know, go over and tell them, me and my husband or me and my wife are going to think about it. Or even yourself, okay, you know, write down, this is what's going to be for the payment. If we can get it down to here, we can put here your gas, your insurance, and your car payment. Say, okay, well, maybe it's a little bit over budget. We can't go over. We got to stick to the budget. Maybe a salesperson comes back, listen, you know, thank you for your time. It's too much for us. Here's where the salesperson is going to do a little bit of work now. They're going to try and get that deal for you, right? They're going to be like, hey, you know, if I can do this, would you do business with us today? As a customer, stick to your budget, stick to your guns. You got to make sure that, you know, you've told them, and it's not like you didn't say this before. You told them you had a budget of $500 and that was it, right? Because you calculated and you budgeted and you said this, and you've done your research. So as a consumer, I'd be like, well, you didn't do your job, right? Because I told you what I wanted and you didn't do it. So this is where a consumer will really understand if the salesperson was listening, right? Because if the payment's way out of whack, or, you know, you didn't love the car, is the salesperson even listening, right? So these are things in the back of my mind as a consumer, now being in sales, I would, you know, really understand, right? Try to think, what are they doing? Don't be afraid to walk away, right? Be like, you know what, like I said, this has been great, thank you for your time, we're just gonna look elsewhere. And then again, like the salesperson and maybe the sales manager is gonna come in there and is gonna try to sell you, right? If you can get to your payment, then if you love the car, great. You know what? Sign the deal and there you go. But if there's something seems off, maybe it's the salesperson, maybe the shady dealership, maybe, you know, no one said hello to you when you walked in, maybe it was the car, I don't know. Then maybe it's time to take a step back and be like, you know what, we need to take our time and really think about it. Ask, like I said, optional fees. Ask the rate too. One thing is in the payment, be like, hey, what's the rate? Sometimes they'll say, well, we don't know yet, which is fair enough, because we don't know, you know, if you don't know what your credit score is, the rate could change. But if you got great credit, usually you can qualify for the best rate possible. Right now, like I said, it's been in between 7 to 10%. And then think of also great reasons to buy this car. Okay, well, you're looking to have a kid. It's reliable, it's safe, it's got good resale. Think about these things too when you're buying. A lot of people always think of the negatives. Think of the positives. I, myself too, it's always a negative thing. Sometimes when you're going to a dealership, it's like, I'd rather go to the dentist, really. But think about the good things. Okay, well, you know, I love this car, it's good, it's suitable for the family, it's good on gas, all these things you want to kind of ask yourself, right? So that's in the negotiation. Once you've gotten to that part, and let's just say you said yes, came out, budget, everything was good, like all the stars aligned, and boom, you did the deal, perfect. You're gonna get to the finance department. So whether it's gonna be cash, lease, or finance, usually on a used car, you're probably gonna finance or pay cash. Make sure you get approved, obviously. But one thing to note is when you get approved, make sure you're looking at the rate, okay? You don't wanna get charged 10% when you could potentially qualify for 8 or 7, because you're gonna pay an extra 2-3%, which, you know, as a dealer, you're making a little bit more money, but as a consumer, this is things you gotta educate yourself with. And it sucks no one really teaches people, but these are things you gotta know. Look at the finance options, right? 72, 84 months, maybe 60. If I was financing something personally, if I could afford it, I would do 5 years max, because usually 5-year, 100,000 kilometers, 60,000 miles usually is when the warranty's up. So I would, I would pay it off at that point and then, sell it and look for something else. The problem is your payments are a little bit higher. So it all depends on what you can afford, let's be honest. Understand your credit, like I said, and the rates. And then some of the time, well, most of the time, a finance department's gonna offer you product. These sometimes too, like they can be a little sketchy and they can be a little shitty. Like some of these warranties are pretty crap, I'll be honest. But there are some packages that they do offer. You gotta really read through it. Sometimes, if you don't do that deal that day and you've got a couple days, or like you don't sign that bill of sale, you don't take delivery of it that day, maybe they give you a couple more days to think about it. Think about, okay, like how long are we gonna keep this car for? Is this a bumper to bumper coverage? How much are they charging me? Try to get a good deal on that. These are things also to think about. Overall, you gotta, like I said, you gotta feel everything out. If you feel like they're being honest, you had a good experience with the salesperson, maybe the manager came by, shook your guys' hands, or said hi to you. These are all things that I, as a consumer, always think about, right? Like, especially if I'm gonna give my money to them, how are they treating me, right? Like, I'm buying a car for sure, right, somewhere, but how are they treating me as a consumer? Do they really care? Are they just handing me the keys on delivery and saying, yeah, see you later, right? Is the car clean? Is it gassed up? Was the delivery on time, right? I know things happen, but these are things that I really care about. Was the salesperson genuinely interested in me and whoever I was with? Like, these are things that I really think about. And these are things you should think about too, because at the end of the day, you're spending a lot of money, and I just want to make sure you're taken care of. So I know I rambled on a lot, but these are 5 best things you can do to have a good investment car in today's market. Do not go to a dealership and just walk in there and just be like, yeah, I'm looking for a car. Like I said, you might leave the dealership so pissed off with a car that you just bought and you didn't even want to do that, right? If you get a salesperson who knows what they're doing, they will literally sell you something you did not want. I've seen it happen, right? And it's just, it's craziness, because the customer comes back 2-3 weeks later and is pissed off. So just make sure as a consumer, you're aware, you've done your research, right? You know what you're looking for. You've got a couple options in mind. You educate yourself. In today's day and age, with all the things that we have at our fingertips, it's so easy to educate yourself. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. I'm always, open to seeing what other people say. I'm curious, maybe I missed something, but I think, in my opinion, these are the best things you should do in today's market to buy a vehicle. And yeah, let me know what you guys think, and we will see you in the next one. Have a good one.